I kind of first got started in this business making fillet knives. I couldn't find a fillet knife that had a finger guard on it and also it held a decent edge. I like to fish in the saltwater for salmon, halibut, and bottom fish. So I said, well, I could probably make one of those. So I did. I made one, and I still use it today. And it kind of got me started, and I realized that to be able to cut, you have to have a thin edge. And geometry basically is one of the things that makes a knife cut. So when I worked into hunting knives and utility knives, I kind of used that same philosophy. You want a thin geometry, and we want a steel that has high wear resistance. So teamed up with Spyderco to do what we call a South Fork, and the objective was to make a all-around outdoorsman's knife. Not necessarily a pure hunting knife, not necessarily a fillet knife, but something that could be used for a lot of different tasks in the field. The aim was an outdoorsman's knife, but people were getting good feedback. People are using them in the kitchen, and it works good as a backpacking knife, for canoeing. Really good for field dressing, especially larger game, because the blade is just a little short of 5 inches, and on elk and moose and some of the larger game, even the larger mule deer, I have found that a little more blade length comes in handy. So we settled on something just shy of 5 inches, and that seems to work pretty well for everybody. You can fillet a salmon with this knife, for example. You would cut down the lateral line and then fillet both ways and get those nice fillets off of each side. If you just needed one knife in the field and you're fishing and hunting, I think it would serve very well. The handle design is also something that kind of evolved over some 20 years of my own design and use. I like a finger guard because, back to the original fillet knife, if you're working and your hands are wet and slippery and you slide forward, there's no finger guard here. You can imagine if this isn't here, you're just going to slide right up on the blade. So we have a good finger guard and have a little finger notch here for a little better control to choke up. Choke up like this. Can hold the knife in a conventional manner. Turn it over, thumbs here. Choke up on the back side. Actually, the rounded butt allows you to hold it in the palm of your hand, and this turns out real nice if you're doing caping or some fine work with a point. So we tried to, as much as we could, arrange the geometry of the knife for a general use, but it can do a lot of specific tasks. It's interesting that the Spyderco chose to use CPM S90V in this knife, and I think this is probably the first production fixed blade knife with that steel. CPM 90V has almost 10% vanadium carbide, and vanadium carbides are very small and very hard, so they work in the steel something like what aggregate works in concrete. So that's the edge will cut really well to begin with, but as it wears a little bit, then you get into those hard carbides, and it will plateau out and cut for a very long time. So that's why we chose this steel for an outdoors knife, because it's not always convenient to stop and sharpen your knife right in the middle of field dressing an elk on the side of a mountain in the snowstorm, for example. So that's one of the nicest features about this steel. Heat treating is critical on this steel. Spyderco didn't choose this steel because it's easy to heat treat, and it doesn't cost much, and it's easy to grind and polish. They chose it because it has good wear resistance and it has good corrosion resistance. And so heat treating takes very high temperature and close temperature control to get the most out of the steel. And Spyderco's worked that out, and I'm impressed because it's not an easy steel to deal with, but the results are worth it.